Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So we dealt a long time on the Fatiha, on the Basmalah last week. Can anybody just bring anything that they remember? Some key concepts. We got to Rabbil Alameen, I believe. Because really, the Fatiha, again, we mentioned last week the importance of cracking the Fatiha, like it's a mission. It's a life mission, but also it's a key kind of thing. Like I'm praying, I need to crack the Fatiha. Any takeaways from last week? No. Allah is merciful. What does that mean? Okay, what does it? Let's cut to the chase. Does it mean? Mm-hmm. No worries, no worries. So I think you mentioned the things are brought into existence are not mawjood, but they're marhum, right? So yeah, they're mawjood, they exist. Mawjood means existentiated. They've been brought into existence. But that's from just on an existential point of view, like do they exist, they not exist, right? But the fact that they exist and that they've been chosen is a rahmah for them, right? And we mentioned Rahman, the one who's pouring over with rahmah. Rahim, the one who's permanently showing mercy, right? Um, we mentioned some of the meanings of the word Allah, right? For those scholars who say that the name of Allah is, um, um, derived from Al-Ilah, the God. What does God mean? The word Ilah in Arabic, what does it mean? Which is, by the way, the same as Hebrew, right? In the Bible, in the Old Testament, one of the names of Allah is Elohim, Elo, which is Ilah, the same word, right? So it's the same. So when you're studying Arabic, you're studying Hebrew, right? There's this big dictionary that I don't know how long it is, but big it is. It's kind of a Semitic dictionary. It's kind of one system. So what does ilah mean? Okay, but what does it mean? It's when you say God in Arabic. The one about whom we're perplexed. Good. So that's to do with explaining. So you ask the question, why? I remember one of these questions I put to a sheikh a long time ago, like, why does Allah do this? Why does Allah do that? Right? That doesn't actually mean anything because why means for what, right? So when you're trying to explain why did the apple fall, okay? So there's a need and there's an imperfection. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his perfection, we cannot explain him because he doesn't need anything else. And so there's no explaining, there's no why, right? Everything goes back to him and uh and he doesn't go back to anything. He goes as-samad, right? The one we all need, right? Perplexed don't need. And the last one was al-walhan, al-walah. You say wilah and ilah. What that was. That was to be beside yourself with love, right? So this is what I need to focus on. In the name, through the being of, and with the help of, and with the permission of the one whom I need, the one who is the source of sources, the one who I am besides myself with love, infatuated by him. I'm through him, right? As I mentioned last week, right? That's key. Okay, and then we said, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, pouring over with mercy, permanently mercy. All praise and thanks to Allah, the one who Rabb. Okay, so we mentioned last week, why is Allah angry with me? Why is he on my case the whole time? Everything's haram. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that sentence? Why is Allah on my case? Why is he like, oh, this is haram, and this is haram, and this is haram? What does it mean when something is haram? in terms of Allah's rububiyyah, Allah in terms of His Allah being the Lord. We mentioned it last week. Inshallah, please make dua. Inshallah, in June, July, we're going full time. Inshallah, so I'm gonna try to put a bit more structure into the course. So maybe we'll put some more quizzes. Inshallah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is invested in us, right? So the other day I demonstrated to the kids in school. I got my laptop and put it on the floor and kicked it around the room, and they were shocked. It's like do you care about your laptop? So yeah, okay, why are you kicking it then? Right? It's something that you value. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has invested in us. We're something of value, right? And it is an honor that He is angry with us. Because if He was not angry with us, it means He doesn't care about us, right? As one of the ulama said, "Hanu alayhi fa'asawhu." They were worthless to Him, so they disobeyed Him. Notice the sentence structure. Hanu alayhi. They were worthless to Him. Fa'asawhu. So they disobeyed Him. What does it mean? It means that Allah cherishes us. And when we doesn't cherish us, He turns us away to something else. So the fact that He's there on our case saying, "Don't do that, don't do that, don't do that," right? It's like you only send a dog to bark at sheep that you actually want in the pen. If you didn't care about the sheep, they can go anywhere they want. I don't really care. Why would I buy a dog and have it bark at these sheep? I don't care about the sheep. The fact that I care about where the sheep are going and I tell them, go here, don't go here, means you're worth something. You're Kareem, you're noble, right? So it's something very special, right? So Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, Allah is nurturing us. He wants us to be more, grow in every single thing. He's not the Lord of the manna suppressing us. Allah is not suppressing us. Allah wants us to grow. Allah wants to be better. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Okay, and we mentioned last week, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. How does that, what's the phrase? How does that guide the way we live life? If we say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. We mentioned mercy four times so far. How does that guide our behavior? Compassion. So we mentioned last week, when is it halal not to have compassion? Scenario, when is it okay not to have compassion? What about when I'm giving a had punishment and punishing somebody in court? Can I not have compassion then? Is it halal not to have compassion, to lack empathy at that point? To not care at that point? Is it halal? Even then. So even if you do something that is harsh, you still have to have compassion, right? You still have to have compassion. So there's still love and compassion. The sense that I wish this didn't happen, and I wish this person was not like this, and I wish they could benefit, and I hope they benefit, right? We punish children out of love and care because it helps them. We don't punish children out of vengeance. May Allah protect us, right? And so this permeates every single thing. And whenever this is lost, everything is lost. There's no rahmah. There's you don't care, right? Callousness. Callousness is for the shaitan and for our nafs. That's what it is. On Judgment Day, you can be callous towards the kuffar. That's true. On Judgment Day, you see, right? فَالْيَوْمَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنَ الْكُفَّارِ يَضْحَكُونَ. You're going to be laughing at the kuffar. True. Because now you know Allah hates them. Now you know Allah hates them. Suhqan lak. Get out of here. Go. Right? Your feelings will be in one with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. اخسأوا فيها ولا تكلموا. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, be wretched, get out of my face and don't even talk to me. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell these people in hellfire. And so you have the same feelings. But as long as there's a chance that they're loved by Allah, care and concern, care and concern. Prophet ﷺ suffered for us. Prophet suffers for us when we mess up. It pains him. Okay. So anyway, let's finish off and go back to where we were. So the Fatiha then begins with our first five ayahs when you're talking about Allah and dealing with Allah in His Rahmaniyya, in His capacity as this kind, merciful, overwhelmingly merciful Lord, and in His Rububiyyah that He cares for us and that He's the one above us and we have to listen to Him because He's trying to rear us, right, and make us better, right, and then but He's Maliki Yawmiddin as well. You can't mess with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So He's not, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not a giant teddy bear in the sky. Oh, Allah so merciful and kind, give him a big hug. He's also Maliki Yawmiddin, the owner and king of Judgment Day. He has Malk, means he has control, right? He has Malk, and he has Mulk, which means dominionship, right? And he has Milk, which means ownership, right? And he has Malaka. Malaka originally means today, it means like a ability to do something. Husnul Malaka means a good way to manage your slaves. That's what it means. Husnul Malaka, a good way to manage your slaves. Like you're a slave master and you deal with them in a good way. You know how to manage them well and in a kind way and get things done with them. Husnul Malaka. Right, that's it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our slave owner. We are His slaves and His slave owner. So we can't mess around with Him. Because on Judgment Day, He is in charge. هذا يوم لا ينطقون ولا يؤذن لهم فيعتذرون. This is a day that they will not be allowed to speak and there's no hands raised and I don't care what you have to say. Silence. Period. You've already spoken with your deeds in the dunya. Right? So we have to have tremendous hope in Allah and tremendous fear. So we've dealt with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in hope and fear and we've done the things that Allah has asked us to do and we've worked on ourselves and we've seen this is wrong, astaghfirullah, and out of hope in Allah that He's the Rahman and out of fear of Allah that He's the Maliki Yawmiddin, we've worked with Allah and worked and worked and worked and worked, and then this Iman comes, this spiritual literacy comes, and it feels like Allah's with me. Inna ma'iya Rabbi sayahdina, Sayyidina Musa says. At this dire point, it's like I'm with Allah. Feel it, right? Allah becomes more obvious than the letters that spell His name, right? Because I'm literate, I don't see the font here. I don't even think about where the words are on the page. I'm looking at the meaning. When I see the word name is more apparent to me than the angle of the top of the N. So the signified is more apparent than the signal. Does that make sense? That's called literacy, right? If somebody wrote a swear word, a cuss word on the board, the emotional effect of it is greater than the color of the pen or how big the person wrote it, right? Or they wrote something kind or whatever it is. So when you have literacy, you are lost in the meaning and you don't see the medium anymore. You don't see the letters where it is on the page. You don't see that because it's not relevant. Does everyone understand what I'm saying? Right? The sound of the voice, that's not the point because you're caught by the meaning. Right? You're caught by the meaning. The meaning is more significant than the letters and the sounds, etc. So it's the same thing. The universe is the alam. Alam is the tool of knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like qalab, the tool of molding something. And khatam, the tool of sealing something. It's the alam. This is a tool. This is a machine. Our experiences, your experiences, experience of the future and the past, the message of the universe is La ilaha illallah. Right? هذا خلق الله. This is the active creating of Allah. فأروني ماذا خلق الذين من دونه. Show me what else is there. And so with our mu'amala, through our mu'amala, we deal with Allah properly. We get mushahada. We get the sense of being with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the sense, that feeling. It's something that you can't write with a pen. You can't explain. You can't. It's not something you can put into mental categories. Right? You can't put it into a mental category, and it's something that increases with our good deeds, our with a husn mu'amala, we're dealing with Allah in the right way, and it decreases with our bad mu'amala, right? It's a myopia that becomes less, right? The more you step back, say, oh, that's trees, right? You are standing right next to a tree and you're just looking into the darkness of a bark. You don't even know what you're looking at. There's just a roughness on your face. And you step back and you see a tree, and you step back and you see it, and you realize, subhanallah, not only do I see a tree, not only do I see woods, but I see a whole galaxy of of planets that have trees on them. And I'm worrying about oxygen. Right? You see, this is myopia, that you get too close to something to see it. You're too caught up with the blueness around the name Aman, Hussein, that you don't even know that he's here and he happened to be your son and you haven't seen him for 20 years. His son who hasn't seen, his father who hasn't seen him for 20 years does not care about the letter and why it says M, right? As opposed to Aman for A. They don't see those things. You just see the signification. So the signified becomes more clear and more immediate, right, than the signal itself. Does that make sense? So this is إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. This person is now with Allah, through Allah. This is with Allah and through Allah, right? So worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're my dedication, you're my focus, you're my decision making, all these things. But I feel how utterly I can't do it by myself, right? I can't exist I can't breathe by myself. I can't think by myself. I cannot do what is right by myself, right? I can't start this engine by myself. I can't solve this problem by myself. I can't do anything by myself. My very core, my very being is through you, Ya Allah. And that's how it started. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So now, what is the word of these people? Guide us the straight path. The path of those you have blessed, not the path of those you're displeased with, nor of those you've gone astray. Notice the adab with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? It doesn't say الَّذِينَ غَضِبْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ, the people that you are angry with. You say those people up against whom you are, those which there is displeasure against, those with whom there is displeasure, right? It doesn't ascribe it to Allah. It is true, Allah hates them, but it's not out of adab. We say you bless so and so disobeyed you, right? يُدْخِلُ مَن يَشَاءُ فِي رَحْمَتِهِ. He enters into his mercy whoever he wills. وَالظَّالِمِينَ أَعَدَّ لَهُمْ عَذَابًا. What's the word? أَلِيمًا. أو كما قال, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, he's teaching us the adab. He says, he enters into his mercy, into his garden of paradise, and into his guidance, and into turning to him, whoever he wills. It's in his, it's his. So when we see guidance and good deeds, we see it as coming from Allah. وَالظَّالِمِينَ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, underlines it and puts it in bold and changes the case. And he says, as for the wrongdoers, be prepared for them a very painful punishment. Because they're wrongdoers. They earned it. So out of adab, you don't say, oh Allah, you say, thank you Allah for guiding me, and please forgive me for sinning. You don't say, thank you Allah for making me sin. You don't do that. So there's an adab being taught there. Not those with whom you're displeased, nor those who have gone astray. Right? This means the Jews and the Christians in general, and anybody, Muslim, Jew, Christian, anybody with whom there is this wrath. So yes, it does mean specifically Jews and Christians, but it also, in its generality, means other people. Okay, so the Fatiha and then Ameen. So this is a key thing, right? Ihdina as-sirata mustaqim. So there's so many key points where each letter has a key emotion that you need to have, right? Otherwise, it doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense, right? There was, in a few months ago, we did a play with some of the kids, and there was a scene where the actor's very angry, right? And so I was the producer, and it's like getting the kids to be angry. Some of the kids are naturally angry, which is great. But like getting them to express that anger in the right way, the right words, because it doesn't make any sense, right? You're following a play, and it's like the words don't go with the emotions. It's kind of odd. And so no, it's like there's a point in the play like this actor is very angry, right? So we have to we have to tune our emotions with these words, like crack it. It's not something that you can be taught, but I gotta go through it and feel it. So ihdina as-sirata mustaqim. Think about your life. Think about how many times you messed up. Think about how you honestly cannot do this. I cannot do this. right? I cannot do this. Convert, you feel it. Yeah, I couldn't have done that by myself. You've just been saved from a life or death situation. I couldn't have done it by myself. Help me. So that's a pure, deep need. Ihdina sirat mustaqim. The ha, ih, right? It's almost painful. Ihdi, right? Ihdina sirat mustaqim. Guide me, ya Allah, right? This is ibadah, right? What the Prophet say? A dua, huwa ibadah, right? Like dire prayer, like, Ya Allah, I really need you. I don't know how to do this. Like, I can't do this. This is really good, right? This is a really good situation to be in. This is means you're actually awake to your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as opposed to, oh yeah, I got this. I'm religious. I'm religious. Let's go to an extra class on a Sunday afternoon. What? As opposed to, I'm not religious. I'm a bad person, but Allah is guiding me. يا ابن آدم كلكم يا بني آدم كلكم ضال إلا من هديته فاستهدوني أهديكم. So sons of Adam, every single one of you is totally lost, with the sole exception of those people I have guided. فاستهدوني, ask me for guidance. أهديكم, I will guide you. As opposed to, yeah, I got this. That's rude, right? The mentality, I've got this. Yeah, I'm just working on my fine sins now. Like the major sins, they're not there. Like, mass murder, that's not on the radar. No, that is wrong. If you're not scared of mass murder, it means you don't understand, we don't understand how much we need Allah, right? You think you have problems with certain sins, you have problems with every sin. You think you need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for your kidney transplant or whatever it is, you need Allah for everything. Every single thing, Bismillah, through Allah, by Allah, to Allah. Right? This is the dua of the Prophet. Wa ana bika wa ilayk. And I'm through you and to you. Okay, let's move on to where we got to. So again, we were on. I believe we were on. No, we were not there. 1 second. We were on. I think we had just started Al Imran or something like that. Before Ramadan. Reading Quran in English, we got to. No, that's Ramadan. Reading Quran in English. Reading Quran in English, we got to Baqarah 223. That's where we got to, right? 223. 224, yep. There we go. Baqarah 224. Oh, there we go. Is this Baqarah? No. This is Baqarah 224, right? Did I skip something? Yeah. There we go. We're at the right place. Okay. Okay. Okay, so we covered this before, but we'll go through it, inshallah, like not all of you in the Ramadan. So it says 224, do not use Allah's name in your oath. So generally speaking, it is un-Islamic to swear by Allah unless you need to. So the culture that we find in the Arab culture, Indo-Pak culture, I'm not sure about other Muslim cultures, but it's there, right? That it's just part of speech, right? Unfortunately, I think in Yemeni culture, it's in a very dangerous situation. They use certain phrases, which are actually very threatening to their marriages and things like that. It's unfortunate. May Allah protect us all and give us knowledge and um, so people use this a lot, right? And so in the Bible, thou shalt not use, the Lord's name in vain. Um, I don't know, much about Judaism, but as far as I understand, there's a major issue in Judaism about even mentioning Allah's name, period. So there's a reason Allah's name, there's a reason like Allah's name is not Allah, right? So like it should be like Allah because there's no reason why the lamb should be heavy. But it is Allah because it is a heavy name. Allah is not a joke. So we should not be throwing that word, I swear by Allah, every 2 minutes, right? It, it's not a thing that should be in our daily vocabulary. It should be that you want to say something, say it and mean it. If you have 1,000 extremely heavy points to make every single day, fine. But otherwise, if that's not the case, you should not be saying wallahi unless you have something very, very heavy and weighty to say. And so, we should train ourselves and train our kids to, two of my teachers, I don't ever remember them ever saying it ever. I don't ever remember them. So, it's not a light thing, and we should say it when we want to say it. I mean, it's not 100% analogous. I remember my English teacher, may Allah give him guidance, inshallah, to Islam. He said to me in grade 10, I think, he's like, you can use swear words, and we're like, what? We can use a swear word? And like, yeah, if you mean it. Meaning, like, you're writing something, and this actually has a place, then fine. But if it doesn't have a place, why just throwing swear words around for no reason, right? And so again, we don't necessarily agree with that. But the point is, you're using a word for something. Like if you want to swear by Allah, swear it, right? And we're going to see in a second, in 226 as well, this kind of this where it should be. So Allah subhanahu says, "Do not use Allah's name in your oaths as an excuse for not doing good, not guarding yourself against evil, or not making peace between people." So this verse has been understood basically in two ways: is don't do that, right? Don't make Allah's name this petty thing that you use on a daily basis to stop yourself in these things. Or if you have sworn by Allah, so another understanding of the verse is if you have sworn by Allah, don't make it a barrier to doing that which is good, but rather what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to expiate. So you said you swore by Allah that you'd never speak to your brother ever again. Is that a good thing to do? No. Okay, so you're going to speak to your brother and you're going to have to do the kafara, and kafara to mean you're going to have to do expiate by freeing a slave, fasting, etc. So don't make it like that. And Allah is all hearing and all knowing. He hears what you're saying, and he knows everything that you're saying and everything you're doing. And Allah will not hold you account for unintentional oaths. So here again, بِلَغْوِ أَيْمَانِكُمْ. What does that mean? Again, an issue of debate. Aisha radiallahu anha, she said he means again the casual Arab thing that you say wallahi this, wallahi that, right? Well, you don't really mean it, it's just turn of phrase. So before I said it's un-Islamic, and so the Shafis have mentioned it's actually offensive, right? It's offensive to do that a lot. Um, uh, you know, but technically speaking, it doesn't count as an oath, right? So for example, the word aywa, right? That's I don't know if they use that in Yemen, Hamir, but aywa, that means yes, right? In Arabic, aywa. I don't know if they use that in North Africa, but aywa. It's from wallahi, right? Wallahi. That means that means yes by Allah. But it's been reduced into aywa, like the word bloody, right? If you heard British people saying, "Oh, bloody weather, bloody this, bloody that," right? It's a kind of a heavy word in English. The reason why it's heavy is because it's an oath by the Lady Mary, right? So when somebody says, "Oh, uh, yeah," it's just not meant, right? It's not meant. So you said, did you do this, Aywa? Right? Is this yours, Aywa? So now you didn't mean I swear by Allah that it's mine. So there is no kafara. That's not a technical oath, right? As opposed to Wallahi al-Azim, this is my car. This is not your car. Okay, you just sworn an oath that it's called an yamin and ghamus, the engulfing the sin, the oath that engulfs you in sin. May Allah protect us. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those when you make an intention like that, that's something. Or somebody says, you're in England and somebody says, oh, bloody weather, right? That's not a very polite, nice thing to say in England. It's not very polite, but people say it, right? And you're like, oh, that's shirk. You're swearing by Lady Mary because it's by the lady. So that's been reduced to bloody. So we write it bloody as if it's to do with blood. It's got nothing to do with blood. It's by the lady, right? And so, that's not shirk, is it? Or I say, what day is it today? Sunday. Astaghfirullah, today's Allah's day, it's not Sun's day. It's like, I'm just calling it Sunday, right? I don't mean that it's the day of the sun. I have to worship the sun or something. I just we call it Sunday. That's all. So there's a difference between what you mean by it, right? Um, and just on a side point as well, some people make a big issue about swearing by other than Allah, right? And so the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man kana halifan falyahlif billah," or kama qal. Whoever's going to swear an oath, swear an oath by Allah, right? And the Prophet ﷺ did say that whoever swears an oath other than by Allah, faqad ashrak, right, has done shirk. But we find the Salaf, and I'm not talking about the Khalaf, the Salaf, they're having these phrases like, fisqun duna fisq, kufrun duna kufr, shirkun duna shirk, that there's metaphorical uses of the word, right? Not every type of kufr in the Quran means what we technically mean by kufr. Not every time kind of shirk that is used in a hadith and the Quran is what we mean by shirk. Shirk is when you worship a god besides Allah, you make up false idols. But the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, for example, that showing off is like shirk or is shirk. Inna yasiru min riya'i shirkun. That means a small amount of showing off is shirk, or clearly it's not shirk. And so it's important to understand that it is not kufr to do that, right? And in fact, there's a hadith, aflaha wa abihi in sadaq, right? That where the Prophet ﷺ said, I swear by his father, right? And so it is, and from Imam Ahmad, there's like three narrations on the issue of swearing by other than Allah. One that is haram, one that is makruh, and one that is actually mubah, right? But nobody's saying that it's shirk. Shirk is when you think that Thor is, you're Norwegian and you started worshipping Thor and you say, the person swears by Thor. I don't even want to say that word, right? When you actually, use it as a religious thing, like I swear by the fact that Thor is a real god or something like that, right? As opposed to just a turn of phrase, right? So, people say things like, wahayat kada, or they'll say things like that. They shouldn't, but it's not shirk. Okay, we have to be very careful. Shirk is a big thing. Shirk is like a huge thing. This person has worshipped a god beside Allah. People don't accidentally do shirk. It's not a thing that you accidentally do, right? And so in this context, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, okay, you're swearing by this and swearing by that. And so now the same kind of thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, those who swear not to have intercourse with their wives must wait for 4 months. So this, I don't know, a million things in this verse. So what is it talking about? Is that somebody swears by Allah verbally, right? They swear by Allah verbally that they will not sleep with their wife ever again or for more than 4 months. So this person, they have to be a man of their word. Either they go ahead with that and they divorce her, or they go back on their words and compensate by freeing a slave, and if they can't free a slave, then to fast 60 consecutive days, and if they can't do that, then they feed the poor. So um, it's not a it's so the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this, it means a number of things. It means that number one, uh, intercourse is an integral part of marriage, right? So that's what it is. So you're married to this person. When you verbally, explicitly cut out that aspect of your marriage, this is not just something that isn't happening for certain reasons, but is you're actually making a statement like this is now no longer on the cards, period. Right? And so you can't do that. That's what tells us that. And it also tells us that intercourse is a right of woman. That's what it tells us, right? This not only has a right to that, but he also has a right not to be told something like this. So I think it's quite amazing, if you think about it, it's quite amazing that if a woman did this, she wouldn't have to do anything. I mean, she makes that vow, okay, and then breaks it intentionally, or right, then obviously she's broken her vow. But it's not a thing, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned that you can't say that to your wife, but it didn't mention you can't say that to your husband. So that means that like that this is not just a haq, but it's a haq that is like mu'akkad, right? And this is why Ibn Taymiyyah he said وهي من وهو من أوقد Um, وهو من أوكد حقوقها, right? It is of the most emphasized rights she has. Because at the end of the day, if he can't work because he's sick and she's working for it in his place, if uh, whatever happens, there's only one person in existence that can fulfill this need. One person, right? That there's one person she has on the face of the earth that can do that. Nobody else can do that. And so that's a really fundamental thing, right? So somebody, for example, who, as a man, for example, doesn't think that's important. Um, he imagines, for example, that his wife isn't into that kind of stuff, or doesn't have those kind of needs, or doesn't deserve those needs, right? She doesn't deserve it anyway because she doesn't treat me like this or whatever. It's like whatever. Nobody, I really don't care how she feels or doesn't feel like. That is definitely not on the cards because this is how she treats me. This is somebody who doesn't understand basic things, doesn't understand the deen, and doesn't understand the nature of people, right? And so this is a very, men and women, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't say khalaq in the context of about the fitna and the difficulty of protecting oneself, from sin and from that angle. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't say khuliqal rajulu da'ifan. It doesn't say man was created weak. He says khuliqal insanu da'ifan. Mankind, i.e., men and women created weak. This is a major issue, right? So, it's like it's a major thing. So explicitly telling one's wife that you can just forget about all of that stuff. That is not even happening, right? This is something that is very haram and there's a particular punishment, right? I don't know. I don't know. So it happened. It certainly happened. Um, it certainly happened. But was it a thing that they used to do? I don't know. But it, but it then tells us as well is be a man of your word, right? Be a man of your word. So you say something, do it. So we see in marriage, like what does marriage mean? Marriage means if you want to have a relationship with somebody, then put your money where your mouth is and do it. Oh, you love her, she loves him. Okay, then get married. Or you don't want to get married, then don't talk. So similarly here, he says to her he doesn't want to sleep with her. It's like, okay, then put your money where your mouth is and divorce her. Oh, I don't want to. That would be an embarrassment. Okay. So again, how many a family they function in a non and a dysfunctional way. And that's okay because society accepts it. Society should not accept it, right? Society should not accept it. It should be like, yeah, this is silly, stupid, right? And not that society should be knowing what's going on, but you know, the way that people work is for the sake of the family, just continue in a bad relationship, and it's okay. Wrong. Try and fix your marriage. Try and fix your marriage again. Try and fix your marriage again. Try and fix it again. Exit. Like, you know, fix it. Try various different ways. Like really, really try and do it, and then finish it. 'Cause this is you're harming somebody, right? You're harming somebody. So this is not, so this kind of here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying this is not just a private thing. This is a real thing, right? This is a real thing. Now, there's a different side to it. Just want to mention is, uh, you know, could agreements be made where certain rights are just relinquished, right? You can, right? So she says, listen, don't pay for me, don't see me, we'll just stay married. That is halal if they're both happy with that, right? It's fine. You can do that, right? So that happened to one of the Sahaba. He was married to somebody, and he had a second wife, and then the first wife was very upset. So then he divorced her, then he married again, and then he divorced her again, and then he said, "Listen, I'm gonna divorce you a third time now. Um, do you wanna end it for good?" And she's like, "No, actually, it's just I'll just stay married to you, and I'll accept that I don't have the same rights as the other wife." So you can come to agreement with that. It is permissible on a mutual level, but this is not mutual, is it? It's not mutual. Right? Or that she accepts, for example, yeah, you're at college. I understand you're at college and I'm at college and you can't support me. Okay, I can accept that. So as long as there's mutual, because it is her haq and she can relinquish it, right? Or his haq and he can relinquish it. And obviously, anybody who's married or understands the world, you have to overlook a lot of things because you can't demand every single right that you have. It's not going to work, right? So that obviously has to happen on some level. But here it's just in our face, right? You can't do that. So this it tells us a huge thing about feminism in the Quran. Like feminism is a big thing in the Quran. Right? Feminism not as a stupid way that we understand in the West, but like, power to women, not over men, but power to women, right? So there's a big difference between power to women, right? Where, for example, you kind of like positive discrimination. What do you call it in America? You call it um, where like a woman will get a job instead of a man. It's called something affirmative action, right? Affirmative action. Now that's stupid, right? Like that doesn't make any sense, right? If men are better than a job than women, that's fine. It's not a problem. There's no reason, or a certain race is better than a job, a better, statistically more Chinese people are better than this job than somebody else. There's no reason as long as it's based on a meritocracy, that's fine. But Islam comes along and gave women tons of rights and recognized women. Said this is a woman. She has this right and this is wrong and this is wrong. And she has emotions and she has physical rights and emotional rights and you can't do that, right? They can reclaim it at any point, yeah. So for example, so at college, for example, two people, they got married and she's saying, okay, so when you graduate, we're going to live together, right? And you're going to support me. And she's, yeah, yeah. So then he says, actually, I want to do my master's, right? Um, you know, and then she's like, well, we agreed that when you finish your undergrad, you're going to start get a job and you're going to support me. And he's like, yeah, yeah, but I want to do my master's. So honestly, I'm not going to be able to get a good job. Da, da, da. So it's her right at any moment to turn around and say, I want money. Her right at any minute. If it's joint income, any moment she can turn around and say, I don't want to do joint income anymore. My income is my income. Your everything is on you. The house, the bills, everything, food, everything. Right? So it's key concept, right? So yes, you can overlook your rights, but at any point, right? At any point, um, what was it? At any point, you can relinquish that. You can reclaim it, right? And so we have to understand that we think that in marriage things are very soft, very hard on women and soft on men. It's not actually the case, right? So there is a certain material, right? Um, what's that? What's Madonna's song? What's it called? About material woman. You know, um, I live in a material world, Like there's truth in that. In that, at the end of the day, mashallah, we want everybody to have akhlaq. At the end of the day, you got to pay. And if you can't pay, she has a right to go to court and ask for annulment of the marriage because she doesn't have that's a haq, right? That's a basic haq that she has, right? So that means what if he's sick, right? So in the West, right, the Christian or the Western concept is no through thick and thin, right? That's not actually the case in Islam, right? It's not actually the case in Islam. Allah doesn't actually force you to be thick and thin. So she can be like, oh, I'm sorry you had cancer. Yeah, you can't work. I'm sorry. 3 days of not paying for food. Okay, I'm going to court. It's like 3 days. He couldn't go to work, so he went through his savings, and now he doesn't have any money. You can easily work. She's not obliged to do anything. She's not obliged to go out and work and support for him or anything. So 3 days of not being supported, she can just go to court and that's it. Goodbye. You know. So it's important to understand that. So that's obviously on a lower level, of course. On a higher level, she should be loyal and try her best, but she's not obliged to. Okay. So in such marriage, you can really connect points. So statistics answer. If we were to explain this concept to others, what would some of the wisdom be that women can get away with saying that? So they can't get away with it, but the point is because it's haram, right? So for a woman to say that, that's haram, and if she breaks her oath, she has to execute. But the point is, Allah specifically mentioned this, so that means it's like Allah. So there's a specific punishment for it for a man saying this about his wife. So it's not that he can get away with it. It is haram, right? So, word to the sisters, um, again on the base level, on a higher level, inshallah ta'ala, we all have akhlaq and we all try our best. And men are merciful and women are respectful. And men don't ask for things that it's hard for the women to do. And women try their best to do what they're told to do. But at the end of the day, on a very like financial level, if a woman leaves the house or a woman says no at night, she does not deserve to be provided for that day, right? So when you say she can get away with it, no, she can't get away with it, right? So if then, for example, she went to the court and said, yeah, he didn't provide for me for 6 weeks. Okay, what happened the day before? She said, well, like I said no, like I just like forget it. And so like you don't get you don't. So it is there is a very like the Islamic marriage is a big picture, but at the bottom of it, there's a lot of very fundamental things. Like at the end of the day, you didn't do your job, so you don't get paid. It's not your money. Like you don't have a right to shelter or food, period. Right? So you say get away with it, not really, right? So, should any man tell her wife that? No, there's reasons why things happen like that, and we should be merciful and kind and understanding as best as possible. But at the end of the day, as a woman, it's like, yeah, right, you're basically the money you have is not yours. Like you're not. If a woman's like, that's it, forget, I'm not doing any of that stuff, forget about it. She has no right to be supported, because um, she's not doing her side of the agreement. So it's not the case that she can get away with it. The point is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has specifically targeted men and said, you can't do this. And a woman, right? It's not just like, so imagine, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke about in general, right? But it's very specific when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, don't do it to that person. And specifically, here's a punishment. We're going to see it later on. It's going to come up again. And there's another similar punishment as well, right? It's very telling of a woman's emotional and physical rights. You can't tell me that. I'm a woman. I have dignity. There's certain things you can't cross. You can't say things like that to me, and you can't do that to me, right?
Sheikh Fareed.
Yes, go ahead. So take it. Yeah.
So I guess I was trying to ask, like, if we were to use this as a point to, if you're speaking to non-Muslims or even some relatives, and kind of like to point out, like you said, women have a lot of rights through Islam. Using this as a positive uh, example. And so when someone says, well, if a man says that and he has to fast for 60 days or free a slave, how come a woman doesn't have to do that? You know? So what would like a response be that, the extreme um,
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. But you could imagine. So I don't understand the whole of mankind. Okay. I don't understand the whole of mankind, and I don't understand everybody's feelings, but I do understand that women's emotions are not like men's. And so, like, there's a slight you can cut a woman's emotions much deeper than a man's emotions in certain ways. But notice, for example, if he cheats on her, okay, we did this during Ramadan. If he comes home and somebody runs out the back, right, and he knows he can get a sense, like he either knows or he sees or he knows or he has like 90%. He could take her to court and have her liable to be stoned to death, whereas she couldn't do that to him, right? So there's a big difference here, right? So then you come along and say, well, hang on a minute, why? Like if he cheated on her, it wouldn't be the same. So yeah, because it's very different, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so again, I'm just, I'm saying I don't understand, I can't come along and say I understand the whole of mankind, I understand the feelings, I understand why Allah would do this. What I'm saying, hazard and a guess is very different, right? There's a big difference, like, a woman saying this to her husband is like, okay. Whereas words for a woman are big, right? Words for a woman are big. It's not a small thing. You can't say things like that. Whereas for men, actions are big. And also that kind of action, that's huge. That's colossal, of course, right? Does that make sense? That could be another reason as well. You could ask a woman, for example, hey, free a slave. I don't have that kind of money, whereas a man might. It's possible. But generally speaking, there aren't that many financial penalties to begin with, right? So the concept of fines don't really have a thing in Islam. Like a fine, there's not a fine. Right? There's not really a thing that exists. And in reality, there's a debate: is it even halal to fine people? Right? But there's things like, and usually it's things like corporal punishment as a had punishment or other kind of things, but like usually a financial punishment. But that's not really it. So and so when you say a penalty, this is a moral issue, right? So between him and Allah, he has to do that. Not that the court can do it as a punishment. Right? Allah. Okay, inshallah, we have to stop here. But it tells us a lot, right? It tells us a lot. There's a lot in this ayah, inshallah. And we said, but if they sat on our doors, then Allah is all hearing of what they just said and all knowing, right? Subhanallah. And then he goes on to verse 28, verse 20, 28. Inshallah, we'll come back to this, inshallah, next week. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم سبحان الله وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. So just one thing before we start. There's a key thing that we need to always find is that we always live in these two extremes. It's either A or B, right? It's like somebody saying, is it A or is it B? And I'm like, no, 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 no. Get A and move it sideways. Like, what are you talking about? It's like you're looking at the A from the wrong angle. So a lot of the time we have to do that is start to look at letters or concepts from a totally different angle. So we look at things like conservative, not conservative. Islam is not conservative, nor is it like libertine. It's not conservative as we in the West understand conservative, nor is it libertine. It's like, oh, so where is it then? It's like a totally different thing, totally different paradigm, right? Women's rights, totally different paradigm, right? The way it is here, like what it means, like it's a totally different paradigm. So it's not A or B. It's like we're not even looking at A and B. Like throw A and B out of the window and start listening to the Quran. Right? Okay, وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم سبحان الله وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك